So hello, good evening. While everyone gets logged on and set up, I'll take 2 minutes to let you all know what to expect in the next hour or so. So welcome everyone. For those that don't know me, I'm James Westwood. I'm the senior consultant with Harvey Nash and I run the Yorkshire Dev practice. My co-host for tonight is Usman Shahid, managing consultant for our Newcastle office. We've come together to bring TechSpace to life and with the intention of giving something back to our networks. Those that are returning will know a big part of what we're hoping to do is put on a great event, but also create that ongoing support network for taking your career to that next level. So with that in mind, please do follow the main TechSpace page on Meetup, where you'll have access to our Slack HQ with its resources channel. There's some great reading lists and links from previous events already on that Slack channel. On to why we're here tonight, the journey into technology and solving the skills shortage. So a topic more important than ever. A lot of companies we work with right now are really struggling with this skills shortage. There's no doubt that COVID has accelerated a lot of digital roadmaps and company growth with it to a wide extent. So recruiting can be challenging in a very competitive marketplace, no more so than in the world of IT technology. So tonight we'll hear insights and solutions to long-term recruitment strategy from 4 expert speakers who are going to talk us through their personal experiences, challenges, and hopefully successes around the topic. So this is we'll be followed by the live Q&A with all the speakers as a panel. The Q&A part is reliant on your questions, so please do send them through to us live on the Q&A function. This part is really important as we get towards the end of the event. We'll do our best to work through all of these questions tonight. Any unanswered questions will go in the Slack channel. We promise to answer them all. We're hoping tonight's event meets its aim of providing useful insights and takeaways that will help you all, whether it's in your day job as a tech professional or even at home. I also want to say a big thank you to all the speakers who I know live very busy lives and have given up their time to make tonight a success to be here with us. And a big thank you to you all for taking the time out of your day to be here. So thank you. One final thanks. I guess today's event would not be possible without our sponsor, and that is Harvey Nash. Harvey Nash specialise in tech recruitment across the world. They partner with some amazing brands, so think Channel 4, for example, here in Leeds, but specialise in companies of all sizes. They run a number of tech events themselves. They've got podcasts, they've got the famous salary survey in partnership with KPMG, all worthwhile checking out as useful insights into the world of technology. So that's enough from me. I'll leave you in Usman's capable hands, who's going to introduce you to the speakers, and I look forward to hopefully catching up with you all in the chat as the event progresses.
Thanks, James, and hi everyone. Welcome to TechSpace. Just a couple of quick bits before we get started. The chat is open. Feel free to interact with ourselves and the panelists on that. As James mentioned, the Q&A. We've got some questions that were submitted previous to the event, but we do aim to get all of these covered off before the end. So I suppose without further ado, let's move on to our first speaker, Rosie Pickersgill of BJSS. Over to you, Rosie.
Cheers, Usman. I'm going to try and share my screen. Hopefully it shares okay. Please do let me know if it doesn't. Is it sharing, Usman?
It's sharing, and if you just start the presentation.
I shall. Which are we on? Presenter view on all?
Presenter view. So if you flip it.
Is that any better?
There you go, spot on.
Cool, brilliant. So my name's Rosie, as Usman said. I'm the Academy Manager at BJSS. Recently started at BJSS actually, about 7 weeks ago now. So previous to that, I've got kind of experience in the consultancy / service provider industry, should we say. So what I want to do is kind of give you a really quick overview of the BJSS Academy, present, past, and of course future, and give you that overview there. It's going to be quite quick. I did practice this and it was like 17 minutes long. I won't take that much of your time. I'll try and cut it down, but obviously if there are any questions, just give me a shout. So what we're going to look at, we're going to look at the history, we're going to look at the Academy overview, we're going to look at the fact that it's not just for graduates at BJSS. I'm also going to touch on Ben's journey. So Ben is just one of our engineers that joins in March, and kind of his experience. potential things to consider as an employer, and of course, from a BJSS point of view, what are we looking at in the future? So a bit about the academy timeline. So BJSS was established in 2015 in terms of the academy side of things. It started in Leeds. We recruited basically computer science graduates from various universities. It was basically a case of our engineers spent 4 days on project with 1 day a week dedicated to training and development, which actually meant that as interest in the business grew and more officers were recruiting people, wanted to recruit people, that interest grew within the academy as well. But the problem there was they didn't have the capacity in order to help develop these people. So centralising that meant that we could basically put forward an initial 4-week training period, which meant that the smaller officers could be serviced by the academy. It also meant that there was obviously ability to hire across sites, deliver the training from one site, and it wasn't kind of solely based on the engineers that worked in those offices. The structured training within the 4 weeks meant that actually we could recruit people that weren't necessarily from a computer science background. So that kind of opened up our criteria, diminished barriers, shall we say, into technology. And we also changed it from kind of a software development program to an engineering program, which of course, as we all know, open career opportunities. Engineering spans the whole kind of testing, DevOps, software engineers, etc. Meaning that they went through a training program to become a developer. They passed through as a developer. It was quite open. And then following on from that, which I'll touch on later, is about the fact that it's not just for grads. It's graduates, it's tech returners, it's career changers, and all of that good stuff as well. So the academy is pretty much an umbrella term. It's a centralised function providing recruitment, training, development and support. It encompasses the engineering academy, which is our general, we take people, usually graduates, but they are the career changers, the tech returners, through a 4-week program. Out the other end of it, they become software engineers, DevOps engineers, etc., etc. A new academy is our data academy. We'd like to kind of call this, I suppose, a course. It's taking software engineers with Python experience or software engineers in general through a more data-driven academy training course, which gives them that kind of insight into what it is to be a data engineer or a data analyst. Again, with the data engineering academy, it's a 4-week course. With the data analyst course, it's a 2-week course. Platform Academy, I won't go into too much detail about that because we are going to be launching that in January. So in terms of the detail that I've got on that, it's very slim at the minute. And then in terms of apprentices, obviously software engineering apprentices, but we are looking to centralise that function in terms of looking after the marketing, admin, finance, sales, you name it. Apprenticeships will come under that that BJSS Academy umbrella term. Again, alternative talent pools is something that I will touch on shortly. So the academy mechanism, what's it made up of? So as you can see on the right hand side, so whilst there is an initial full-time course when someone joins us, the academy doesn't just finish there. So there's a team of 3 of us. So there's myself, the academy manager, there's Joe, who's our kind of lead recruiter, and there's also Dan, who's our head of academy. So we look to recruit, we look to train, we look to support, and we look to grow the individual. So recruitment, self-explanatory, it's recruiting those people, it's finding those alternative talent pools, it's finding those streams of recruitment that we can use. The training is probably kind of the main thing that people focus on, but actually quite a small part in this mechanism of actually, okay, that's that 4-week training at the beginning, but ultimately we need to support these people in their training further and beyond as well. So we look to embed that within their first 2 years at BJSS to ensure that we keep up to date with them, ensure that they're getting the training that they need. With that obviously comes the support, the mentors, the buddies, the squad leads, the line management, and of course the overarching kind of academy support too. And then there's growth. It's that career development. It's making sure that they have the right opportunities and the right things in front of them in order for them to grow. So what I said, it's not just for grads, it's about this alternative talent pool. What we are looking for from an individual is the fact that they're intelligent, they're enthusiastic, they're driven, and they're dedicated. They're kind of the four main characteristics that we look for at BJSS, and we don't really care that much about background. So university graduates, of course, self-explanatory, but the difference here is we don't just look for people with computer science degrees, with software engineering degrees. We look for people who have an abundance of degrees. So we've got kind of philosophy students, mathematics, STEM subjects, etc. as well. Our tech returners, so we partner with tech returners to look at those people that have been in the industry, taken a break, coming back to the industry. What do they want to achieve? What do they want to do? Now, theoretically, our tech returners do have that previous experience. So it's kind of an internal conversation to say, well, do they really need to be in the academy? Do they need to go through that training? Or can we actually give them that opportunity with extra kind of courses and development alongside their new career, shall we say? Career changes, of course. I mean, we've got people, for example, that have been tech recruiters. We've got people that have, I think the one example that came out today was a guy that joined us in March, who was a casino manager on a cruise ship, who had a passion for technology. So why not? If you've got that passion, if you've been kind of self-teaching, why not give that chance to someone? And then finally, of course, apprenticeships. So we are launching this year, we're bringing on kind of 6 apprentices in Leeds, Bristol and Manchester through Manchester Digital as software engineers. Previous to that, we've used kind of other suppliers, but this is the part where we look at it and think, well, actually, what can we achieve from that apprenticeship and how can we build that up and grow further? So I just want to touch on kind of Ben's journey. So I'll quickly go over what Ben's been doing. So he graduated in 2013. He was a philosophy student. He knew that he wanted a role in technology in some kind of capacity. He was brought to the idea of, oh, why don't you do tech recruitment in his 3rd year? And as you can imagine, as a philosophy student, Ben went to uni and thought, you know what, I really want to be a recruiter, which is very unlikely. But he did, and he made a really good career out of it, did what he wanted to, achieve what he wanted to. He went from kind of agency recruitment to internal recruitment, was made redundant in internal recruitment, which kind of pushed him along to become a consultant in his own right and set his own business up. And he kind of got a flavour for working with IT teams because he didn't just recruit the people for them, he worked with them on that agile journey to understand how they would work effectively as a team, which kind of boosted his charisma, shall we say, in wanting to become a software engineer or part of tech more so. COVID happened, he'd finished his last kind of consultancy role and thought, right, what do I do now? I've bought myself a house, I've done what I wanted to do. Okay, well, now might be the time to get into technology. He was pretty honest with me when I spoke to him, actually. He didn't really fancy the consultancy journey. But following that conversation, speaking with people, understanding what the academy was about, understanding the structure of the fact that he wanted to succeed and the academy set him up for kind of that success, it appealed to him. Went through the recruitment process, and for him, really fortunate to get on the program. And now he's currently working in managed services for one of our clients with a view to move into a software engineering role in the very, very near future. So just from a point of view of organisations looking to take on graduates, looking to take on apprentices or any kind of career changes, early careers talent, it's not just about that academy team that you need to rely on. I probably don't have enough time, or definitely don't have enough time, in fact, to go through all of these different areas who kind of help the academy team out. But what I wanted to do was actually kind of focus on the engineers, the people that are on the ground, the people that are going to be working with your academy engineers, your graduates, your apprentices on a daily basis. It's all well and good coming from the top down or bottom up, with those people kind of understanding that this is necessary, this is needed for kind of future-proofing the business. But actually the really important people in this are the engineers, the ones that are going to be mentoring them, buddying them, answering questions that they probably think are ridiculous, but really aren't ridiculous because they're at the beginning of their career. They're the ones that companies need to be focusing on in terms of building that internal talent and building that internal network as well. In terms of the training for us, obviously, because we are recruiting from various degree disciplines, the training is really crucial. Fortunately, we're in a position that we can deliver practitioner-led training, meaning that we've got the best representatives in the business, delivering different areas of the training, all really willing to get involved, really happy to get involved too. And we also ensure that we give our engineers pre-learning material. That's pretty much welcome by all, and especially those that don't come from computer science background. So give them some access to our Learn Hub to have a look, go through some courses, make sure that they're prepped and ready for joining whichever month it is, so whether it's September or March. Finally, looking into the future, so there's some really exciting areas that we're working on. This is kind of a list of four of the areas. So next month we welcome our first cohort of data academy engineers. They're going to be both internal and external, so it's internal upskilling and obviously external recruits. We're also launching our platform academy. That's going to be launched in January. We are still going through the centralisation, meaning that along with everything else, apprentices are also going to be centralised. So the marketing, the admin, the tech are all going to be centralised, not reporting, but being looked after, supported by the academy team. And of course, a development of a series of internal courses as well that we can bootstrap to the online learning, bootstrap to the academy, and everything like that for our current existing employees to go through too. So I know that was a really whistle-stop tour of what's going on. Hopefully I'll be able to answer some questions at the end, but hopefully everyone got a gist of what we're trying to achieve, what we're doing, what's coming in the future, and of course, any questions I welcome at the end.
Thank you very much, Rosie. Really insightful there. So thanks for sharing. Just a quick one from me. How many spaces do you have a year on this academy or these academy programs, and sort of how is that dictated?
Yeah, so I suppose it varies. Ultimately, our kind of capacity is around 36, and that is in person as well as it is remote. Mm-hmm. That's just so that people get the right experience and the best experience. There's a flex in that 36. It could be kind of up to 39, 40. But I think 36 is kind of the optimum. We want to make sure that these guys get the right experience, get some good coaching, and we've got the right number of people in order to do that.
Great stuff. And just for everyone's benefit that is watching this now or watching it back, offices are based around the country but headquartered in Leeds?
Yeah, headquarters in Leeds. We've got London, Nottingham, Bristol, Manchester. I won't remember them. Cardiff, Glasgow. Where else have we got? Yeah, everywhere. We've got them everywhere.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Rosie. And what we'll do is we'll swap over now to our next speaker from the sunny northeast, which is where I'm sat at the moment, David Charlton. So I'm just going to add you in here, David.
Cool, thank you.
And off you go.
Okay. Screen coming through?
Yeah, all good.
All good. Cool. Okay. So, well, thanks very much, Usman. Let me just get my buttons right as I'm doing multiple screens. So let me introduce myself first. My name's David Charlton. I'm a group manager with the Avanade business. I'll introduce you to that a little bit more in a moment or two. I've been with Avanade for 5 years, and I look after everything in our business to do with the Microsoft account. So we do a lot of work for Microsoft in the UK and well, right around the world. So my main function is making sure things we do for Microsoft, services we deliver them on their behalf, and the teams we embed with them are working and everything's functioning well. That leads me to be regularly hiring for our business. So what about Avanade? Who are they? I don't know how many people have come across us. It's a bit of a big business, but not particularly well known. The business was founded in 2000, so it's 21 years old. It'll have just passed that last month. And it was a joint venture, and still is a joint venture, between Microsoft and Accenture. Accenture are the major shareholder now. But yeah, it's in that sense. 43,000 employees across 25 countries, of which we've got about 750 in the UK. And you know, we were well accredited. We've been Microsoft's SI partner for 15 years in a row. So we've got some good credibility there in that sense. And we work with lots of enterprise-sized customers, banks, multi-corporates, multinational businesses are the type of business we tend to focus on. And we are strictly a consultancy. So for us, it's all about projects we deliver through our staff. We do managed services too, across the UK. So what I thought I would give you a little introduction to is just a temperature check what's going on in our business at the moment. Okay, so last year was a slow year, as you might well imagine. We came out of the election and the Brexit, and everybody was being very cautious. And then we ploughed straight into the COVID scenario. Everybody knows that they closed down. So I think last year was slow. We did do well. There wasn't an issue in that, but it was slow for us. We stopped our recruiting. We slowed things down a little bit. We didn't know what was coming. There was need to be quite cautious. By summer last year, things really started picking up, and I think last year was the last quarter of our last year, which is the end of August. That was our best ever sales quarter, I believe. And we've had good demand and growth from that point onwards. So the business is very hot, as the boss would say. So we've had to twist and adjust some of the stuff we're doing. We're recruiting heavily. I think we've probably had about 100 people join the business in the last couple of months through different methods. That's a mix of new careers, starters, and experienced hires. So there's been a lot of change in the business to supplement that, and you know, resource. We are resource hungry at the moment. So yeah, very optimistic outlook for the business. So how are we filling our resource gaps? Well, a number of things. The business has always done an awful lot about driving our current workforce on and growing them in that sense. We'll have a little look at that. Bringing in experienced hires, of course. We'll always hire people with skill sets. We need to do that at all levels in the business. Driving people through from within. We've got a graduate scheme which has changed, and we've also got our apprentice scheme as well. So we try and bring people in at all different levels. So we'll just have a little explore of those as we go through. So let's pick up our the people that we've got in the business, or experienced hires, and how we'll grow them. So we bring people in the business, and it's a great business for driving people on with their career and the opportunities. But we look at it around 3 specific pillars for our current people. We try to give them distinctive experiences, limitless learning, and ambitious growth. Big buzzwords, I appreciate that. But the distinctive experiences, let's get on the next page. You know, is about driving our people forward, giving them great projects, giving them real opportunities, working in good teams, okay, because that all develops them and moves them forward. So we see this as a sort of a bit of a two-way street with the employees. You know, what do we give and what do we get? So, you know, great opportunity there. People can work with quite a lot of autonomy on their projects, take a lot of responsibility. You know, we have good people. We let people get on with it, as it were. Oops. Limitless learning, and this is what I'm going to call out again on a further slide a little bit more. So this is where we want people to maximize their skill sets, keep learning, keep growing, so that they might be able to do more. And you know, as a consultancy, if we can drive our staff forward and they can take on bigger and better work and more work, that's all great for them and their career. So, you know, we like people in our business who've got a great growth mindset. So we are quite pedantic about the people we bring in. We want people who are joining us for a journey. They want to grow and learn. And we're quite open and honest about that. And everything we do in the way we do in our businesses to support that. I put this little slide together to try and explain some of that. So how people might be, who are in our business, would be driving forward with their skills and so on. So these are some of the key things I thought were worth calling out. So first of all, everybody gets a career advisor in the business, and they're there to give them regular guidance, mentoring, and to drive them through our promotion tree. And it's an interesting business in that people at Avanade don't need to wait for their boss to leave, as it were, or something to happen. We can be driving towards promotion all the time, and you've got opportunities to apply for promotion in spring and autumn, and a good proportion of our people can get promoted if they're ready for it, but the team know exactly what they've got to do to get promoted. Another thing is you know, the career advisor will work with our team to make sure that their skills are current. So we have some tools which allow us to log what skills we've got, what skills our colleagues have got, and it just allows us, you know, what the expectation is for that role, and it just allows you to temperature check where you are. So that's quite useful as well. You can see where your gaps are, and you can be working on that. And of course, Avanade as a business, we're always working at the front edge of Microsoft technologies, so it's important that everybody is bang up to date. So what about qualifications? We put a lot of effort into keeping everybody skilled with all the Microsoft qualifications, the ones that are applicable to their role in our business. So we run numerous courses across the business. We have competitions, prizes, and all sorts of stuff like that. So there's a lot of effort goes into driving those qualifications. We'd like to see everybody pass one Microsoft accreditation every year in the business. And that's how we just keep pushing forward. So there's a lot of effort goes into that. Another thing there just on the bottom as well, we also have the opportunity to apply and take a year out and do an MBA. That's sponsored on your sort of still paid and all that sort of stuff. And that's off at Bristol University. Some of the other things that do promote learning is innovation. A lot of the projects we do, you know, interesting stuff. Some of this stuff is very interesting. We did a project recently where we were doing monitoring puffins with facial recognition software for SEE Energy. So they were monitoring puffins around wind farms. So some of that stuff, you know, is always pushing people, they're learning and so on. Some of our customers have got customer innovation budgets that we're allowed to dig into. They're all looking, that's how the SEC project came out and the puffin monitoring. They had a budget to do some interesting projects, things that mightn't be, you know, day-to-day business as usual type work, but something different that might add some value. So we get involved with quite a few of that with our big clients. Another thing that we've got running at the moment, people could apply to join our drone challenge, where the company would finance a drone for people. You could learn to program it, and it's a bit of a competition ongoing about getting some imagery and stuff like that from drones and what you could do with it. We run regular hackathons, so all of that sort of stuff where people can learn. We give people lots of resources too, lots of lunch and learn events where people can upskill on things. People get access to Pluralsight, Measure Up, all of the tooling they need to drive through exams. We give them sandboxing facilities with Azure credits and M365 tenant. Through Visual Studio, subscriptions are allowed. And of course, lots of acknowledgement as well. When people are achieving all of this, we reward them with our Go Team Awards, which ultimately turns into sort of vouchers or gifts and stuff like that, which you can get on our portal. So we do quite a bit there about, trying to create an environment which is all about learning and all about people growing and developing in that sense. So that's what we're doing with our sort of hires who are already in the business. Once you're in, that's what you start on. Next slide. So really, yeah, and the other pillar was, all about people growing. We want people to be ambitious. We want people to be, getting stuck into those projects. So it's about core skills and just driving that career. So that's what we're doing in our sort of experienced hires. But let's have a little look to see what we're doing in our programs. And so this slide here talks a little bit about our old graduate program. Now we've paused this for the moment. Okay, so we used to take in a cohort in the spring and in the summer of about 15 grads. They went through a selection process. We did the early stage onboarding, upskilling, consultancy skills, soft skills, presentations, and all that sort of stuff. Then they went off into the workplace with this, and they worked through our different, what we call our talent communities, and I haven't put them all up here just for the slide, but it gives you a feel. And they sort of rotated around to find out what was good for them, see what was a good fit. And then that would sort of run for about a year. Then they'd find themselves sitting and staying in one talent role. And they would drive forward on that basis, and their career would go on. So probably 30 grads a year coming into the business, upskilling a little bit slower. Now, I said to you, the business was very hot. So that we stopped that. We haven't run that this year, and we changed that into our Velocity graduate program, which is a bit more aggressive for the business. So we took a cohort of 30 in. They started in the business on the 1st or thereabouts of April. We've got another cohort open now, so applications are open. That closes on the 27th of May. So what's slightly different about this is it's a 3-month really intensive upskilling program. People don't get the option. We're doing the selection and the decision about their talent that they're going to drop into on day one. We're only recruiting for 2 talents on each cohort. So in effect, currently we've got a security talent and a data and AI talent coming in. Their selection will be on the 1st and 2nd of June, and then they start their onboarding, and away they go 12th of July. And after their initial onboarding, they're working within the teams, upskilling with a massive upskilling program. And part of that will be doing various things and coming out with some Microsoft qualifications and so on. So really driving forward there. And it's taken a lot of energy to get that up to where we're going from various people. So probably 15 security, people in security, and 15 in data and AI. And that will take us up to 30 grads in the last few months. So we're working hard there to build that up. So a bit of a change there. And then our apprentice program, it's been running for a number of years now. We tend to run one apprentice cycle and then start another apprentice cycle and start another. It's a business, you can see there, we are spending a lot of time and effort on early talent, a lot of people coming into the business, it's growing. So we bring in a cohort, normally about 15 people. They're on a program for 12 to 16 months. They're doing level 3, level 4 apprenticeships. And they come into the business, and again, we're selecting them and saying, you're off to software engineering, your skills are applicable to infrastructure, you're applicable to data and AI. So we put them in the business, and that will run. And that's a slow start, you know, it's the building up the skills, the working on projects at the time, and so on. So yeah, that's how we're bringing new talent in and filtering talent in. So people are either in the business and we're growing them, or we're trying to bring people into the business and upskilling them as fast as we can. Cool. And I think that's it for me. So I'll happily take any questions later on.
Thank you very much, David, for that. Just another initial question from me. You mentioned security and data and AI is focused for the grad program there. Is that because that's where you're, I suppose, really seeing the pinch in terms of skills? Is it a demand thing? Just you happen to be winning more of that work? A combination of the two?
I think it's just demand. Obviously, security and cyber is picking up. It's just where we're seeing demand. The last cohorts were Azure stuff and software engineering.
Okay, no problem at all.
And I think, you know, the other challenge we'd have is if we kept going on those, it obviously sucks quite a bit of time from people to keep those programs going. So moving them around our different communities of people also allows us just to keep the current ones going, because we're starting another one before we've finished one, if you know what I mean, in the 3 months term.
Absolutely. And what about the numbers, David? Any insight onto how you sort of decide how many people you take on? Is that a possible like sort of capacity for actually training them, or is this like these are the amount of people we need to feed into our teams?
Probably a bit of both. We've designed the program around what we can manage, what we can budget and afford, if you know what I mean. Because you know, they're all coming in. Those grad roles, you know, you can apply on the website. Applications are open now, so it's a bit of both, if you know what I mean, just to try and get the right pace of the business and so on. So it's yeah, just where we see the business going and so on.
Great stuff. Well, thank you very much, David. I'm sure we'll have some questions for you afterwards as well. So moving on, we now have Rachel, who's joining us currently at Covea, and I'm just going to bring you on screen and take myself off. Over to you, Rachel.
Excellent. Okay. Hi, everyone. Lovely to meet you all, I'm sure. So I'm just going to talk a little bit different from the other two talks we've listened to already. I'm going to do it from a perspective of, well, my perspective, really, and my journey. So I don't know. Let's see how this goes. Yeah. So this talk's called From Let Go to Leadership, and it's my journey into tech, through tech, and how I've experienced. Well, you'll find out. Let's go. So a little bit about me. I'll be brief because I don't think anyone else did this. This is me. I surf. I love plants. I have a little dog who I love, and I'm a random creative. I do DIY. I do all sorts, really. So that's a whistle-stop tour about me. But at work, and within tech, I work for Covea Insurance, Covea Digital. I am an engineering experience and community lead at Covea Digital, which is a right mouthful, if you ask me, but I love it. I've just recently moved into this role. I also have a blog, so techieray.com. Check it out if you like. I also run a vlog called Techie Chats, which is a vlog where I speak to people within the tech industry about the roles that they do, how they got there. And it's a little bit of an inspirational vlog, and also it's got loads of good advice for people who want to get into tech and who want to move around tech as well. And I'm currently also studying a level 3 leadership and management apprenticeship as well, which I actually am nearly finished on that one. So just a bit about the vlog. I released this one last week, and it's just because it relates so well to this meetup and this talk tonight about the skills shortage. I speak to Liam from Silverchip, and we talk a lot about how we have a lot of amazing free content for junior engineers specifically, junior, web developers, software engineers, coding in general, but we don't have the roles available for them. And there was a big push to get people into tech because we have a lot of software engineer roles. However, people are always coming in as entry level because you can't you can't buy experience. So now we've kind of hit a bottleneck of, we have loads of junior developers, amazing, but we don't have the roles, which is we've kind of done ourselves injustice as an industry as a whole. So that's what that one's about, and it kind of relates to this talk about the skills shortage that we're seeing. So check that out and let me know what you think. So a bit about my background. I did IT software development in college. It was a BTEC. I loved it. I got really good grades. The reason there's pictures here, if you're wondering about that, is because I was inspired to do this course because my grandparents were somehow related to tech, wasn't sure what they did, found it interesting. For a fact, my uncle, who's an engineer, he isn't a software engineer or like a web developer, but he's like, I don't know, a physical engineer. He had a cool laptop, and this laptop, you could drive a tractor over it or a tank over it. It's not completely indestructible, but it was pretty impressive. That really inspired me to get into tech. That was one of the reasons. So I went to college, and I also then went on to university. So at university, I studied computing. Ups and downs. I really enjoyed it though. I came out with a 2-1. So I'd done my software engineering course at college. I'd done my degree, and I enjoyed it. The thing was there wasn't very many women on these courses. I'd say I was one of a handful, and that's being generous of women on these courses. So what did I do after university? Well, I got myself a job. This was in web development. I really enjoyed it. I stayed there for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And I learned what I could, and then I moved on to my second role. Now, my second role wasn't specifically a developer role. It was an application support and deployment engineer. So I wasn't coding as such on web. I was doing a lot of SQL coding, and I was deploying for an education software, which I also enjoyed. However, I really did miss coding web products. So what did I do? I went into the community, and I joined up with Code First Girls, and I became a voluntary instructor there. So we taught HTML, CSS, and that's a free program for girls within like a certain age range. I think it's like school age. And there's a lot of programs that get young people into tech kind of interest. So you've got like your web side, and you've also got like software side. And so I took part in that, which I absolutely loved. It was amazing to do, and a great experience. At the same time, I restarted Leeds Front End Meetup, which is a popular meetup in Leeds before the pandemic. I co-hosted and co-organized, which was fantastic. And I also joined in with Junior Hub, which is a Slack community for junior developers. And I was like a community moderator, and that was really fun too. So I'd got back into the community, and I'd started to rebuild some of this stuff within Leeds, and I really wanted to get into another tech role in terms of being closer to tech, so the coding side, the front end side. So what did I do? I found myself a job, and then it was really cool, yeah? So 2 months in, and I come back from my pre-booked holiday, and I got taken into the office, and I got told, Rachel, you've been let go. You don't have enough experience. I was like, what? I've done college, I've done university, got good marks, and I've been working really hard. I've already had a dev role, and I've come in as another entry level position, and I'm not good enough. Now that was like a huge smack in the face, hence the picture. But after the grief cycle had set in, and I'd hard pill to swallow kind of thing, it turned out they actually just wanted someone with more experience. And again, that kind of comes around to the whole thing of we have loads of junior engineers, we have loads of junior developers, but people still want the more experience, and you can't pay for experience, unfortunately. So what happened after that? Well, I reached out to my community, so very good timing. And I said, look, looking for a job. So I landed an awesome dev job where I'm at now, Covea, and I absolutely loved it. I really did. But what I saw was that I also really loved working with people. And obviously you do work with people when you work in tech. However, I really enjoy the psychological aspects behind why people do what they do, why teams do what they do, and, you know, moving around and things like that. So I asked to manage people. I was like, can I be a manager? How do I do this? And I was really fortunate to get a opportunity managing interns, apprentices, and graduates, the digital ones. So that was absolutely fantastic. I loved it, and I had no experience. So what did I do? Covea put me on an apprenticeship myself. So even though I have, you know, BTEC, I have my degree, I'm on apprenticeship now, which is a level 3 in leadership and management. It's an ILM course, and I'm nearly finished on that. Nearly, you know, it feels like it's been going a long time, but I'm nearly finished. And that was you know, a really good opportunity to learn how to manage people and using the apprenticeship levy, which many, you know, all the big companies kind of have. It doesn't cost them anything to get you on an apprenticeship. It's a really good opportunity to kind of build your skills within your company that you're at. So you don't have to leave and maybe go do a boot camp or go to university or go to college. So that's what I've done. And now, because I'm nearly finished on that. So where am I now? I moved into this people role. So my people role now is a new role to Covea. It's a new role to the industry, I'd say. It's all about digital culture. It's kind of taking aspects from maybe HR, aspects from recruitment, well, kind of aspects from it. It's not those roles, but it's within tech. So all my technical knowledge really helps me go into teams and build the community within the engineering function and develop them and work on transformation. So how do we get the business side really involved in what we're doing in engineering, and creating and driving engineering initiatives too. So how do we onboard our people? How do we set up a really technical kind of buddy system that helps people? So that's kind of like a few aspects of my now role. So yeah, that's me. That's a stop tour through what I've been doing, and I'm sure you might have some questions. But yeah, if you want to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all my handles are here. But yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Rachel. Super insightful. In your opinion, then, you know, why do you think it is that, because we hear about projects always running over and, you know, that type of thing, and it's probably because there aren't enough people on the project and that type of stuff. Would it not make more sense to spend that time just hiring juniors in? And why do you think that's not happening in the industry? Because like you say, there's loads of them out there, but yeah, not as many jobs.
To ensure that a junior has a really good experience and well supported, you need to make sure you have the people there to support them. And you need to make sure that you have enough team balance between delivering great stuff and also really supporting the juniors. So in an ideal world, it's awesome to you know, bring in all juniors, but you really want them to have such a quality experience and have that one-to-one with many different people and many different like topics and areas as well.
Yeah, brilliant. James, I think, did you have something to add here?
Yeah, quick one, slightly off topic to some extent, but Leeds Front End was a brilliant sort of meetup and event. Is there any plans to bring it back? Is it still a thing?
So we stopped doing it because of the we preferred in-person meetups, yeah. And we're still kind of assessing whether it's right or not to bring it back yet. But there's no plans at the moment. We're just holding out a little bit longer.
Cool. No, it'd be great to have it back.
Well, thank you very much, Rachel. And what we'll do is we'll move on to our final speaker, Crispin Reed, who is CEO of the Coders Guild. Just going to bring you on screen, Crispin. There you go.
Oh, thank you.
No worries. Off you go.
Grand. Right. Let me click the buttons, do the screen share. Here we go. I'm a bit weirded out because I had to switch round because the sun was right in my eyes. So I've had to shift everything around 90 degrees. I don't know if it's a bit weird. Right. Let me start. Can I click on that over there? Yeah, okay, good. Hi there, I'm Crispin Reed from the Coders Guild. If you haven't heard of us, we're a digital skills training provider specializing in industry-led technical boot camps, apprenticeships, and CPD. We are led by our, it's not clicking out, it's not going forwards. There we go. We're led by our social mission to increase diversity and inclusion and foster collaboration and knowledge share. We have these 3 pillars or personas. So every decision that we make, everything we do needs to add social value to the learner, the businesses that we work with or the businesses around our communities, and also our communities. So they are business communities, they're our local communities, our technical communities. So all the communities that we operate in. I'm going to try and do my talk as fast as I can. I'm going to aim for like 7 minutes. I haven't timed it, but I think that's about what it is. And what I really want to talk about is like the actual issues that we have on the digital skills shortage. And I'm going to highlight 3 in particular. And these are ways in which we can all make an immediate positive impact on the situation. I've been working on the digital skills shortage problem since 2012, when me and some other devs first pooled our resources and we started the country's first industry-led digital apprenticeship for web developers. We've come a long way since then, but the problem that we first set out to solve has actually got worse, not better. Like we've heard from our speakers this evening about the things they're doing and Rachel's journey. And there's a lot of stuff in the press about what the pressing issues are, like on the slide now, you know, unis don't teach the exact skills we need. We need more diverse recruitment strategies. We don't have good role models, or teachers don't really have a good understanding of the jobs that are available. So I'm not going to go over them, but I would like to share with you some key things that I've learned over the last almost decade. Einstein once said that if you had an hour to save the world, he'd spend 55 minutes analyzing the problem and 5 minutes on the solution. And so, we as humans, we're really like solutions focused, which is grand, you know, that's why we're so successful as a species. The issue with being solutions focused, though, is often when you've come up against a good solution, you tend to stick with it. Hold on, my slides are going mad. Sorry, I've just got to try and control my slides. So when you've got a solution, it's really easy to jump to the conclusion that this is the good one and this is what we're going to spend enough time on. So what do we do about this one thing? We do this. Like Rachel was saying, you know, oh, there aren't enough junior devs. Quick, train them to be junior devs. But there's more stuff to figure out, and it's like understanding the problem, analyzing the problem, and to keep doing that is super important. So here is my issue number 1. There's loads of good things going on. There's loads of good projects and initiatives and organizations, but there is a lack of communication and collaboration between the solution providers. So we're working on a number of solutions and collaborations right now. We've got the thing with Generation, which is aimed at underprivileged, neat people, getting them into tech careers. We're working with them to place some software devs in Leeds and London. Doing stuff with Aspiden about recruiting from neurodiverse pools for jobs in testing and software dev and engineering. And the big one that right now actually is the thing we're doing with the West Yorkshire Combined Authority and Baltic Training and the Opportunity Group, which are the DFE's new boot camp, the skills boot camp thing of training people for 12 weeks on employer-led essential skills so that they can enter a business, become an apprentice or a junior in testing or UX or data or software dev, and do a shorter apprenticeship and hit the ground running, have a better ROI. But like one of the things that that Rachel touched on, we're also doing a thing with the West Yorkshire Combined Consortium of Colleges, where we're looking to hopefully use apprenticeship funding, but there's other funding pots we could do, is to move the people who are in the junior roles and help nurture them to become mid-level, and people who are mid-level, how do you become a senior dev? And so if we can speed up that career progression to make room for all the juniors that are coming out of these amazing initiatives. So yeah, the connectivity between them all is really, really important. So we want to make sure that we're also raising awareness. So all these things exist, but they're not so connected. You know, people would go on a boot camp, but then where do they go? People may have an internship and then not a job, and then where do they go? And to connect all these things up would be absolutely ideal. We'd be able to deliver much, much more impact if we could you know, hand things over and knew what everyone was working on. Issue number 2, as I am on the side now, is around awareness. We all need to promote and support all these initiatives, make sure everyone knows they exist, get people talking about them, engaging with them, and using the talent that's coming out of them. We need to be doing much, much more personally and across our networks, across the industry and in the media. And finally, the issue number 3 is about taking responsibility. We all need to take responsibility to make this work. Business needs to take responsibility, as we've heard that some of our speakers are, for taking these people on and doing the training, you know, training them on the job. The vocational training exists, but people still have to do it. They have to make the leap between only taking graduates. Oh, we'll take graduates that don't have a technical degree or a STEM degree. And actually, what do you need out of a person? You know, like looking at the talent pool for the real markers of what makes someone, that gives someone the aptitude to be able to succeed in the roles that you are short for. Our communities as well need to take on the responsibility for promoting the schemes, raising awareness and connecting the solutions providers. It's all about this responsibility. And this comes again, I think, from when we first started. You know, we didn't have junior developers that were trained correctly. So we took responsibility for training them, and we pooled our resources as businesses in competition, essentially, and we trained each other's juniors. So and then we all gained for that. So taking responsibility ourselves to be part of the solutions. It's like Gandhi said, you be the change you want to see in the world. I'd be super interested to talk to anyone who can partner with us, or I can put in connection with anyone who to progress this sort of work. So if you know of an outreach group or a charity, or you're involved in a business, or individuals, you know, who want to do mentoring and training, anyone that I can help connect to a project or organization, that's what I'm here to do tonight, you know. I'm just going on the last slide. One of the things that would be grand right now is we've completed the first round of this pilot bootcamp. Like I said, the Coders Guild has trained people in user experience and in software testing and in software development to go into apprenticeships, junior positions, or an internship would also be grand. So anybody who wants to take some positive action and address the skills gap and take these people on and nurture them, we're there as well, of course, to help with the nurturing and the training as they progress. But yeah, search for the Coders Guild, or find me on LinkedIn or whatever, and let's do some work.
Cheers, Crispin. Thank you very much for that. Just a quick question from me on what you were talking about in terms of, I suppose, the diversification into the routes into technology. Do you think now that we have more flexible working, some companies saying they're going 100% fully flexible, and possible changes in flexible working patterns as well, that'll help diversify things? Because I suppose locally what we've seen so far is if you have like a load of grads in Newcastle, they would previously have had to have moved to where they wanted to work. But do you see that being a shift, or do you think actually we're going to go back to the old ways?
Yeah, like people are taking apprentices on who aren't necessarily in the same town as them, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And also, the one of the positives we hope to get out of this, the apocalypse that we're maybe coming towards the end of now. One of the positives is we've had this like working environment forced upon us. Like companies who are really, really resistant to this sort of working have been forced into part-time working. They've had to understand that people have responsibilities for care, and that does open up another enormous talent pool. I kind of feel a bit like we've had someone stole our story arc, because that was like a big part of what we were doing in our own recruitment. I'm specifically looking for parents who are returning to work, who only want to work part-time, but you're good at your job. What hours do you want to work? You can do the school run, yeah, no problem. And and it's brilliant that that is just more common now, because we've all together lived through this thing, and there's an enormous amount of of talent for people returning to work under new conditions. It's great.
Yeah, good stuff. Okay, let's bring everyone back on screen now, and we'll dive straight in to the questions. So the first one: are degrees still relevant? This is open, not directed to anyone specifically, so anyone can dive in. Are degrees still relevant, and what qualifications do you really value when it comes to looking for people?
I'm happy to take that one, even though I'm like in talking mode. I think degrees are relevant for certain things. I think so I'm having some work done on my house at the moment, and I was talking to the apprentice builder about what he was amazing. Oh, what do you do? I've run an apprenticeship program. I'm an apprentice. What apprenticeships do you do? Like we were talking about that, and he was saying how he didn't really understand how it worked, and didn't you have to do computer science? But like the way I was explaining it to him was like, imagine if you're if you go to university to learn carpentry, then what you're learning is these are all the different sorts of drills that there are. You've got your drills with the handles on, and you've got this, and you've got all these different things. These are different motors that are inside drills, and these are all the different brands of drills that you could have on your drill module. And these are all the things that they might be used for. But in an apprenticeship, you learn how to drill a hole properly, how to use a drill without drilling a hole in your colleague. Like it's that sort of this shift in like vocational study that was, you do get value out of a degree. Like I'm not about to like poo-poo the university education, although but I don't think it's as relevant and as necessary. It's a very expensive thing to do. We need people to do computer science, right? Otherwise, where's our AI? Where's our machine learning? Where's our rockets? But you don't need computer science to do the job we do. Like when I first started this, the apprenticeship thing came from the board that I was working for at the time. They wanted to run a grad scheme, and I'm like, oh yeah, but you don't need graduates. And they're like, yeah, we do. I haven't got a degree, and I'm the head of tech. Like, and then I've called all the devs in. It's like, right, so everyone but me has got a degree, but ours degree is photography. Chris's is drums. Myron's is graphics. Like, the case in point, we don't really. It's not necessary. They're good, but it's not necessary.
Okay, interesting. I suppose, David, sort of throwing this one over to you, the differentiation, because Avanade seems to cater for both, don't they? There's the apprenticeship, and then there's the grad program, which I assume you need to be a graduate for. But what would you say your sort of like differentiating factors are in that sense for you guys?
I think really for us it's just about the sort of the level of experience and where somebody is. You know, our apprentices tend to have been a little bit younger. Although we are taking, you know, I've seen that with the last cohort, we saw some slightly older ones are coming in, trying to get into IT. They've got an interest in it, but they haven't got anything more formally qualified with a degree. So, you know, we are taking people in. We've actually got roles open at the moment for people who, some security roles open on our website for new entrants without too much experience. If you've got IT experience, some sort of IT experience, it's not necessarily that you need to be a grad, but you know, if you've got that, we'll take you in. It's just having that grad, a degree just gives you some sort of level of experience and of the learning and so on, because obviously in those early days, they will have to go through a lot of learning. So that's an important thing, you know, and it just helps us measure that as they come in.
Okay, cool. Anyone else want to add to that before we move on? Go ahead, Rachel.
Sure. So I think as well, a lot of what Crispin was saying, it really depends on the type of learner you are. So for me, I did a BTEC in college because I wanted the more hands-on approach rather than A-levels. So that's like a small example, but I really enjoy studying. I really enjoy like the whole deadlines, and that's the kind of person I am. But, you know, there was a lot of you know, it used to be we needed degrees to get into these jobs, and now there's so many more opportunities. And like a big opportunity that we talked about in the vlog recently was self-taught is like a really good opportunity to get into tech, and, you know, boot camps, apprenticeships. Honestly, if I'd have known you could do a degree apprenticeship when I was doing it, I would have saved myself, what, like 50 grand worth of debt? Do you know how a fantastic opportunity that is? You know, you get paid to do work, you get paid to do your degree, you get paid to, you get that paid for you. There's so many more opportunities now that you don't have to, for a lot of things, you don't have to have a degree. But saying that, you know, a degree for me helped me a lot because it's, you know, one of the best ways I learn. So I think it really depends on the learner and the person. I don't think, you know, they're not going extinct, but yeah, they are an expensive option. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much. And just while we're on with yourself, Rachel, a question's come in from Craig through the chat, and anyone else also feel free to add. Are there any good initiatives for girls in tech at school? Having 2 young daughters, I'm keen to get them involved in tech naturally, but I see there's very few girls in tech subjects through the school or college when recruiting. How can we encourage them further?
Yeah, so I'll just quickly jump in case. So there's initiatives that are run by people, external companies who do come into places. So I know, for example, when I did the Code First Girls, that's for, you know, like school-aged people, and that was run at, like, the one I did was run at Sky in Leeds, or Sky Betting and Gaming in Leeds. I know Calderdale College did one recently, and Digital. So many different organisations host these things. There's also something called Innovate Her. And I was just having a look as well, and I found a website that has a bunch of others on. So I haven't properly looked at it because I was just skimming it. So I'll paste that in to the chat. Yeah.
Good stuff. Okay, so I think Rosie, you covered a little bit of this in a response in the chat anyway, but around the 4-week training program that's been mentioned, and I suppose it's almost like, and it may be different for different organizations, but a level of expectation of really, you know, we're probably not hoping for fully qualified, you know-it-all software engineers by this point, but what's, from having no experience to that 4-week point, what are the markers you're looking for in, you know, successful candidates that'll make it seem like, yeah, you know, this is going to be the career for them?
Yeah, sure. I think from my perspective, there's kind of 2 ways of looking at this. From BJSS, obviously it's just 4 weeks. So to a certain extent, we are looking for that not just the passion, not just the kind of enthusiasm for technology and all of that good stuff. We are looking for people who have either gone through a university course or degree or done some kind of coding experience in their personal time, whatever that might be. So we are looking for that kind of the fundamentals as such. We kind of loops and all that good stuff, far too techy for me, but you know what I mean. We're looking for the basics. If I kind of turn back to my previous company, we ran a 3-month training program. So we brought on people that came from geography, finance, economics backgrounds that literally had no experience in technology, heard about it, fancied it, didn't really know where to start. So that 3 months gave us a bit more opportunity to actually lay the fundamentals down and say, this is what it looks like. These are your loops, these are your things, these are that. So your fundamentals there. I think if you're looking at a 4-week program, you are looking for those people who have already explored it in their own time, done potentially the code first girls stuff that Rachel was talking about, or just jumped on Udemy and had a look themselves and explored those fundamentals, who fancy it and are actually really passionate about it. And I thought, you know what, I could probably do this. I'm intelligent, I'm passionate, I can communicate effectively, I can string a sentence together better than I can, and all of that good stuff. So that's kind of what we're looking for, if that hopefully answers that question. Obviously, as I've said in that paragraph there, you can't expect, irrelevant of whether it's 3 months or 1 month, a well-rounded engineer with all the soft skills, all the technical skills that you need to become a fantastic engineer from the off. What you're looking for is actually giving those people the opportunity and then providing them with that support around that to say, look, you've got this mentor here, you've got this squad lead, you've got this line manager, you've got this buddy, and all those 4 different people and the academy ambassadors that we're introducing as well are going to help you and going to support you and show you that career development, show you that opportunity, and give you all those things that you need in between. Ultimately, it's up to that individual. I mean, no one kind of goes into a career, and especially in technology, and thinks, you know what, from the off I'm going to be great, I don't need to learn anything, I know it all. It just doesn't work like that, and especially in tech, it's about understanding that you've joined a career in technology. It's all about learning. Tech is changing every single day. So the rate at which you need to keep up with that, but also that first stage of, I need to get there to keep up with that, is really important.
Great. Really useful insights there. One question I personally get asked a lot by a lot of people wanting to move into tech, and this is again open to the floor. I realize the audience, so I might have some biased views here, but I'll go with it anyway. So paid for boot camps, because they do cost a lot of money. Crispin's already smiling, he's getting ready to come off mute. Paid for boot camps cost a lot of money. You do, it's quite intensive. They go on for anything from 3 months to 6 months or what have you. But is there when you're hiring people into your organizations, is there a true value above self-learning that you would put on that? Or is it one of those things that actually, if somebody was really driven and focused and got on Udemy and stuff like that and did some self-learning, that actually, they're on a par and maybe not the right route to go down? Or does it come truly down to the person? Go on, Crispin.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry, Rachel.
No.
Someone else go first. Go, Rachel, you go first, please.
I was just going to say, it really depends on the person, and it really depends on what they present. So if they, for example, when I do interviews for developers, if they come in and, they are involved in the community, they see the tech community online, not even just local but worldwide. They get involved, they want to teach people, and they want to learn. They're self-taught to a certain degree, whatever, they're self-taught to the level that they're coming into, then that outweighs any degree, any boot camp. It's the type of person It doesn't matter whether you've got like loads of money to spend on whatever. It really, I think it really depends on your person.
Yeah, I totally second that as well. It does depend on the person. Like, you've got people learn in different ways. You know, people are going to want to learn in different ways. Like Rachel was saying, you know, the degree was how she wanted to learn. Like, degree didn't work. You know, learning that sort of academic learning didn't work for me at all. Which is, you know, one of the reasons I'm so passionate about the alternatives. But that's not to say that they're not worthwhile. One of the things about pay for boot camps is, though, for some elements of criticism in terms of like diversity and inclusion, they automatically exclude people. You know, like, who can afford $8,000 and take 3 months off work to do that? That's a big step. And even if you've got to learn alone to do it, that's a scary thing to take that on. And you know, they have a place, and I'm glad that they exist. But we've got apprentices who've done boot camps. I've got 2 apprentices right now who have done boot camps, and they've learned React and Node, and that's grand. But they haven't learned how to work with code with people. They haven't learned how to abstract ideas, solve problems, break stuff down. They haven't learned the actual core skills of development. They've learned how to be a dev in the typing pool. Do this bit of code. I do this bit of code, you know, like, and that's and you get that from, you know, we go back to this thing about experience, right? That we need to have this experience. And there's the chicken and egg, where you can't have a job until you've got the experience, but you need the job to get the experience. And one of the things I think that apprenticeships do really well is you get supported gaining that experience. And when we were, you know, going back to 2012, when we had the hack day, what we're doing, one of the things that we decided we were doing is like, write down all the things that we knew in year 5 that we wish we'd known in year 1. And that was like the basis of the curriculum. It's like, that's how we should think of it, because people want 5 years experience, right? They want 3 years experience, because it takes 3 or 5 years of teaching yourself and failing and not being supported and learning and failing and going off on a rabbit hole and learning something weird that turns out not to be right and coming back round. It takes that time. But if you're supported in that journey, if you've got someone giving you proper information, proper advice, proper guidance about your learning journey, that's much, much faster. And you get to turn that stuff around. Someone is monitoring you. Someone is telling you that it's probably a better idea if you did this course instead of that. And why don't you try doing this at work? And that, and you know, there's a lot of mechanisms in there that are better. But like I would say, you know, they have their place, the biggest. But the government are paying for free ones now. Like, this is what we've been working on, and a lot of the stuff that we've worked on as well is like, because they were a pilot, we were able to do pilot stuff, because when we first like were approached to do to run the contract, it's like, when you say pilot to me, like, that means stuff to me. That means I'm allowed to do things. That means I'm allowed to fail. And they're like, okay, yeah, you're allowed to do those things. So that's what we did. You know, we tried stuff out, and there's things in there. We changed the things that we're doing constantly. We're in the 2nd round of them now, and there's more benefit, I think, from that sort of stuff than there is from a code boot camp. And they will learn from this as well. Like the stuff we're doing with the DFE, with these pilots, that's not like our secret information. We will publish everything. The DFE will have their version of what happened, but we're going to publish everything that we know, so that, you know, our colleagues who are running boot camps can make their boot camps better for employers, for business, for the community. And that, you know, that's the idea. Back to that collaboration thing. That's the way we succeed. That's the way we solve problems.
Yeah. Definitely. And I think, you know, you mentioned about the support training and ongoing development. Something, David, from your presentation that I suppose resonated a little bit with me was actually one of the ways to solve the skill shortage is to make sure your people are fully trained, developed and supported, so they don't actually leave you. So you may not necessarily have a shortage in your company and progress them through. I'm guessing, I mean, it looked pretty comprehensive, but do you find people still ask you for further sort of training and support outside of that, David, or anything that's sort of not covered? Or do you think actually with that, I believe it was 5 pillars model, you know, you've almost got sort of full coverage?
Yeah, no, people do, and we're open to that. We'd invite people to, if there was something that was going to benefit the business, they can reach out to their talent communities. Often you find people want to do something maybe it's at the fringe of what we're doing. A slightly different technology, an upcoming technology. So a lot of the straightforward stuff's already there. So if our guys want to do a Microsoft exam, there's a form you fill in and you get your voucher straight emailed to you within half an hour or something like that. So that's all automated. But some of the stuff is a little bit off piste for us. Say some of the Linux stuff, because we're very Microsofty, of course, but of course with Azure now you can run Linux and Azure. That's becoming more prevalent to us, and people want to mix the state sort of thing. So yeah, we'll pick that up as well. But it obviously we're trying to invest the money the best we can, so it's got to be relevant to what the business needs. We have one of the nice things that in Avanade, people get something called extended benefits, which is a little cash pot to play with. You get about £900 a year, which you can expend on other things. So that can be used for training too. So if you wanted to go and do a different training course or something like that, you can go and invest in yourself as well. So that fund's available to you to do that. So yeah, but yeah, it is for us. It's just people keep moving. We don't. As a business, we'll work right at the front edge of Microsoft technologies. We're regularly a release partner with Microsoft for stuff, so you'll find we're right at the front edge. And to do that, people need to be training, need to be moving forward. There's no sitting around, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely.
So it's all built into careers.
Great stuff. And while I've got you, David, every time we do one of these, I do think I've heard it all, but just give us a few more details on the Puffin project.
Okay, I don't have a lot. It wasn't one of my projects, but it was just something to call out because it did tickle me a little bit, that one. But so SEE are building another wind farm up in the up on the Isle of May in the Firth of Forth. Okay, and obviously as concern about as you imagine, what's the effect of wind farms on nature. So we got engaged with them as a piece of work. They have an innovation pot of money to try and experiment with different things. And one of the things we started off with doing was putting some cameras out there. So they're monitoring, they're recording the puffins and the puffins coming and going. And the AI is sitting looking at that and tracking those puffins to see if it's the same puffin and so on, and see what's happening, to see if there's any effects on breeding and things like that. So they're trying to track that and do things with data from just recognizing the faces of puffins. Really was it was just a very different off the wall piece of work. You don't think some of I never thought some of the technology would be getting into sort of things like that, but we're doing quite a little bit of stuff of that, Internet of Things, AI, it's all a new world and so on.
Yeah, it's certainly one that I'd remember if I saw it on a CV.
Yeah,
and it'd stick out. Okay, cool. There's a fairly, I suppose, big question here, and anyone that wants to answer it, feel free, but understandable if you don't. In terms of the government, do you feel supported by the government in your organisations to bridge the skills gap? And do we think they're doing enough? Are they not doing enough? What more could they be doing? If anyone would like to answer.
I will answer it, but I feel like I'm doing too much talking.
Go ahead, Crispin.
I do a real quick one. I'm really pleased with the things that are happening now. I've spent this whole time when we developed the apprenticeship scheme, but all of the actual work we were doing is the bit before the apprenticeship scheme. That's the bit where we can really achieve with the diversity and inclusion part. And I was always trying to get funding for that, and I would never get it. But so we were trying to make the apprenticeships make enough money so we could do that work. Now that's changed. That when we were down in London, I was always the mayor's office were always always pretending that they were going to, or not pretending, there were funding pots, but I couldn't, it was difficult for me to access them. So there is a big shift now with all the stuff that's happening with these pilot schemes, with the wave 2 for these pilot schemes. There's gain share funding, there's loads and loads of funding that is coming out this year, next year, huge amounts of money. And I'm really, really thrilled about it. There was a massive turn towards it. And so I do feel that our work in general is supported by funding. But going back to my point about the collaboration and the connectivity and the responsibility, that has to lie with with our communities and with business, because otherwise the government just fund things that end up not quite working or don't really address the problem.
Yeah, sure thing. And Rosie, I'm going to come over to you next about a question to do with skills outside of technology. So we've talked a little bit about some of the softer skills and the skills outside of actual fundamental technology. So it's two-part, because I'll add to this question as well. What skills outside of tech help you make decision on a person, but also if somebody thinks they don't have those skills, how do you go about sort of honing those in when you're not in a role that would enable you to do that? So if you are an apprentice or you've just come out of university.
Yeah, I think it obviously it depends on the organisation. Now, being a consultancy, it isn't just about the technical skills. It's actually about that effective communication. I suppose to a certain extent for any organisation, it's about kind of future leader qualities as well. So do we, I suppose if they're coming out of uni, have they managed or been a captain of a team? Have they looked after a society, whatever that might be, and kind of, I suppose, the extracurricular stuff, shall we say, that gives those individuals that future leader quality. I think it's, I suppose, a CV is quite kind of one-dimensional. It's very much, here's who I am, this is what I've done. If you're a graduate out of uni, it's probably like mine was. Here's a degree in sport business management, God knows why, and some bar work at Headingley Stadium, but that really doesn't show too much. So it's what have those individuals done outside of that time in education. Fortunately for me, it was kind of a supervisory role on a bar at Headingley Stadium. So it wasn't just kind of, it was that management side of things as well. Aside from that, it's kind of a cover letter. And I know some organisations don't ask for them, others kind of give you that option, others make sure that you do give one. I think cover letters are quite important because they actually show, one, how passionate you are about the company, because the number of cover letters that I've looked at and received that give a completely different company name as an introductory line, it's like, okay, great, but no. So I think part of what I give to I suppose university people, students, when I do talks, is just make sure you do double check your cover letter. Because ultimately, if you put a different organisation than the company that you're applying to, it doesn't look great. So that's just a recruitment tip, I suppose. But your cover letter is yes, okay, one-dimensional. It's a piece of paper. It's what someone can read. But actually, in there, you can put down a lot more detail. It shows you what you've done in that role in a bit more detail. It tells the recruiter why you're passionate about that job. Why are you passionate about that organisation? Why do you want to get into tech, even though you've done geography at university, whatever it might be? And you can add to that a little bit more too. So that's really important. I think it's attitude. I know a lot of organisations do the whole, remind me what they're called because we don't do them. You know, the psychological test,
psychometric
stuff
testing.
Like psychometric test. That's it. All that stuff to kind of whittle their applications down, which is fair enough if you're working for a huge organisation like someone like KPMG or something like that. you're going to do things like that. But actually, they don't express the kind of the skills of the individual. Personally, I don't believe. So on that initial call with that recruiter, how are you going to sell yourself? What aptitudes do you have? How do you kind of show the attitude that you have to learning, to development, to software engineering, to where you want to be? Now, ultimately, the really generic question of where do you want to be in 5 years, it can't be answered. Let's be honest, it really can't, because people's careers take different turns and whatever else. But how do you approach that? How do you problem solve that question? How do you understand what the recruiter is asking there? And again, that leads me on to problem solving. So how do you navigate your path in what you do? How do you solve those problems, which can eventually equate to how do you solve those technical problems? So that's excellent. Hopefully that kind of answers to a certain extent.
I think so, yeah. And I think, I suppose looking at it from a consultancy perspective, if I suppose somebody could come out of uni or college or what have you and be wanting to work at a consultancy, but not have like the consultancy sort of approach or personality about them, or be too comfortable in front of people, that type of stuff. What sort of things would you advise people like that to do now, because sort of uni's behind them, or their education element is behind them, to try and upskill themselves in those areas? Or is it as simple as, you know, going to meetups and like talk to strangers, see how you get on?
I think there's two sides of it. Now, irrelevant of whether you've kind of, I suppose when it gets to a certain extent, it's not an approach that you take. But if you just graduated first year out of uni, whichever university you went to, your careers advisors, the careers teams there are always there as supporters for alumni. So I would always go back to them. They'd be the first port of call to speak with them and say, do you know what, how can I upskill in this area? What do you advise? How do I go from there? The other side of it is obviously to speak with recruiters. Now you guys will know full well that you can give that advice. You can speak with people. You can basically etiquette and all of that good stuff that you can just say, do you know what, this is how you get your point across. This is what you can do. This is what I've learned from various people interviewing, and this is what that employer is looking for. And then the other side of it is obviously meetups, meet the people in the industry, speak with different people, find out from them. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. It's probably a little bit harder now because you can't stand in front of them drinking a cup of tea in the auditorium before you go in. But what you can do is join these calls, find out from people, ask the questions that are relevant, connect with those that have been on the call, that have been the panelists, and get half an hour with them. And it might just be a really informal chat over Zoom, or it might be over a beer in the pub. But actually what you get from it will be really important as an individual who is looking for that first step in IT, first step in any industry, let's be honest, that can help you there.
Excellent, good stuff. We'll wrap up with a couple of final questions here. Rachel, coming over to you, learning in your own time, the person that posted this has gone through the MS Academy, but are there other good free learning resources, and sort of, I suppose, what would you recommend from your time in this?
Yeah, so if you work in tech, or if you want to be in tech, you know that tech does not stagnate. I say this all the time. You know, you're always learning. You can do a degree, you can do a college course, and you know, you still don't know everything. Absolutely. Some resources, I know Crispin, I think, are you typing a reply as well? But some off the top of my head, you can go to, like you can do online resources, Free Code Camp, Udemy, Pluralsight, FutureLearn, I think's one. I do have a blog actually that lists a load of resources. Some are paid, some are free. And yeah, if you go to my blog, it's techieray.com. You can see some there. And also there's loads of the cool resources on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, obviously. But people do loads of like bite-sized resources. So getting into code, learning the small things, like remember to put a semicolon at the end of your PHP, and you'd have to do it in JavaScript, stuff like that. It's kind of nice little resources, bite-sized content chunks that you can just have a scroll in your like lunch break if you're not doing a tech job and then you get into learning things. But yeah, I'll link the blog because there's loads of links in there. But yeah.
Great stuff, excellent. And just I suppose there's 2 remaining. I believe we've covered off most of the rest in the other answers. What can we do to encourage more D&I in digital and development? It's an ongoing topic. It always will be an ongoing topic, but you know, what are you guys seeing in, you know, your organizations, or what are you coming across that I suppose is there anything that's really working at the minute, you know, above and beyond anything else that we can share? This is an open question. Unless nothing's working, in which case we'll
This could be an event on its own, couldn't it? I think that question, big topic.
It is a real big one. I feel just compelled to come off mute because no one's looking, like I just have to talk. And I think, you know, the thing is that what we all need to be doing is more, and it's the thing about thinking about the problem, thinking about the issue. Like, it isn't just more lady coders solved, you know, like when you think about like diversity means diversity doesn't even mean like more non-white people. When you look at like the diversity breakdown of what you're doing, you want that pie chart or whatever of diversity of who's coming into the so for our example of the training schemes, we want the pie chart to match where we are to, you know, the demographic diversity of where we're at. So it should be really split, and that should continue for applications, successful applications, enrollments, completions, progressions, you know. So like monitoring that all through and putting in putting in initiatives at every point where you notice that they're not the same. I think that is, you know, that the encouragement isn't just at the level where it's easy, you know, like let's just train loads of ladies to code and address the gender balance in tech. It's not going to work. You know, you need to look at the whole entire career. You need to look at the role models. You need to look at how people are supported. And like when we were talking about earlier of like the way in which we work doesn't really support caring for children. And there's, you know, it's like, it's enormous. You're right. It's an enormous topic, but yeah, I mean, we can always do more, and there's just there's too much probably to talk about, isn't there?
Absolutely. David, were you going to add?
No, I was just going to throw a few things in there. As a business, you know, I think I sit here quite privileged that I think I work for a business. I'm quite proud of the business that's trying to do as much as it can in all sorts of ways. We've just launched an initiative to bring women back into the workplace who've been out on leave, on maternity leave, long-term leave, as it were. So we you know, any tech skills there, we're looking to bring people back in there. We are working on initiatives now with much more flexible working. It is challenging for us. We make our money by working with customers, and often they want to see the people. So we're working through that at the moment. We've got programs going where we're supporting BAME young people in schools. We've got outreach programs to try and do the STEM stuff, you know, to talk to young people in schools as well. Granted, some of that stuff slowed right down because, you know, it doesn't work so well online. You want to be in front of the young people, trying to tell them the sort of things and excite them a little bit about STEM stuff. So as a business, we are looking at all of that, and we're certainly a business which is all about bringing your whole self to work in and learning. You know, even some of the things we do to you know, we've got to start inside to change that mentality about our diversity and inclusion. You know, we do lots of even some of our learnings are about cultures, which might seem strange, but you know, Chinese New Year, we had a session about that. You know, we had a session about Ramadan. We have all these things going on in all sorts of different ways, and people are always sharing their stories. We're a very open and honest company, and that's led from the very top. Last week there was a story about a guy in the workforce who struggled with his family life and his mental health because of COVID. Today there was a story came out about a young girl who was telling us about her brother who's transitioning. So, you know, as a business, I would like to think we're quite good on that, but we're trying to carry that out and bring people in on that basis. You know, that, and I appreciate what Crispin said. It's not just about training, getting more females into the workplace, but you know, we have diversity targets, and we're trying to progress that. We're trying to sort our gender balance out. Our hires are certainly slanted more towards females to try and rebalance the gender balance in the business. We're desperate to do that because we know we'll be more successful with a more diverse people set who will be able to deliver better projects. We just know that. We'll get a much better project outcome and results from a diverse group of people.
Excellent. Good stuff. I believe that covers everything. So I'm just going to double check I've not missed anything. Oh yes, actually there is one I've missed. A question in the chat. This will be the final one. So we've heard a lot of stories about boot camps and programs that tie you in, don't tie you in. What advice would you give to people looking to distinguish a good scheme from one that's a bit more exploitative or just not so good for the person doing it?
I'll come in on this if you want. I think from my perspective, it obviously depends on the individual and how they learn. Ultimately, you've got to speak with the recruiter thoroughly to understand what it is that they do, how they run, how's it going to work, but also equally understand yourself and how you learn. So are you a kinesthetic learner? Are you read and write down, whatever it might be? And kind of gauge from that, well, so-and-so does a program that's very much tutor-led, delivered in a lecture style. Am I going to learn like that? Or the other side of it is, well, this organisation does it very much a balance of lecture style, group learning, individually led, whatever it might be. I suppose from the whole horror stories, prepaid boot camps and everything like that, like Crispin said earlier, it's not always accessible to all. And you've got to kind of understand from you as an individual, are you prepared to make that payment up front? Are you prepared to put yourself forward on that? Or are you going to benefit from just basically going on Udemy and following Rachel's resources that she's put on there? that probably some of them are courses that you can pay kind of 30 quid for to achieve, or do you pay $8,000 for someone to kind of sit there and teach you? And like I say, I'll go back to the point. It's about the individual, how they learn, how they want to learn, whether it's the fact that they've got the time to do it during work hours, or whether they need it actually after work because they're a career changer and that's what they want to do. So I don't know. Ultimately, it's like I say, it's up to that individual. It's for those people to decide how they learn, how they do it. Speak with recruiters, have a look on Glassdoor, see how the reviews are there, and kind of get a vibe that way, I suppose.
Excellent, great stuff. Thank you very much, Rosie. And I suppose that brings me on to concluding the event for tonight. So I just want to say thanks to all of the speakers for taking the time. I know you're all immensely and insanely busy, and also to all the attendees that have attended this evening. If you would like to connect in with any of us, including the speakers, we'll send out the Slack channel invite through the meetup group. If you're watching this back on video later down the line, just reach out to James Westwood or myself, and we'll be able to set that up for you. As always, these events, we're guided by the community as to what people want to hear. So if there's any comments, feedback, good bits to improve, we're more than happy to hear them and try and set up the next event for you. And a final word, I suppose it goes without saying, all of our speakers organizations are recruiting at the moment, so do feel free to reach out to them. I know a lot of the organizations personally, and there are some fantastic opportunities there for people. So, you know, go ahead and get in touch and see where you get. But yeah, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Keep up the good work, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Cheers. Bye bye.